that's probably a camera issue on our part. So we'll try to resurrect that a little bit later. But anyhow, I want to try to do 3 different things this morning. One is to give you an update as an organization, what we have been doing over the last 2 weeks. Secondly, to encourage you also to, if you have questions related to issues about COVID-19, is to continue to send them my way. And third, really to share some resources with you and some of the ways that school leaders are really impacting their communities by staying connected with them. And so again, there's been some great things happening during this last week that we've been out of school, and we're going to continue to collect those resources and ideas from you as well. So let's get started first of all about what's been happening around the Pennsylvania Principals Association. Certainly we are closed, our office is closed. Just like everyone else, heeding the governor's opinion on that. And as I was thinking back over my 40 years in education, I was trying to think about another time where we had a situation like this. And the only thing that I can recall was really during one of my first years teaching when TMI hit in our area. And at that time, if you can think about that, it was totally different times. There was no social media, there were no cell phones. Actually, I remember teaching that day, and we didn't even know what was happening, that parents were running in the building, just grabbing their kids and leaving, and we really didn't know we were closed for some time. So we are certainly in uncharted waters here, and we're all scrambling to make sense of this as new guidelines come out. So stay with us for that. One of the things that we have been doing as an organization is we've been in constant contact with the other educational organizations and PDE. In fact, we've been working with PDE very closely because, as you can well imagine, they've been getting swamped with questions concerning all kinds of issues that public schools will be facing during the school closure and beyond. So PDE did reach out to us saying, you know, we're getting so many questions that are coming in, there's no way we can field them all. Would the educational organizations help with that effort? So all of the educational organizations have committed to a daily phone conference call. I just got off that call. It happens every morning at 10 o'clock, where we are coming together and submitting questions that we're getting from our members, and then sending those questions in a format to PDE for some guidance on some of those. We're also kind of formulating some answers as well. So your best avenue at this point is continue to go to our website at paprincipals.org, where we are uploading on a daily basis any guidance that we get from PDE on answers to some questions. In fact, today, just a few hours ago, I believe, we uploaded a new frequently asked questions about COVID-19 from the organizations. PDE has now allowed us with their guidance to give you some answers to those questions. Keeping in mind that this is a moving target, and the answers today could change tomorrow with either legislation or more guidance that comes out of either the federal government or the state government. So keep your questions coming to me directly. They're best sent to me directly. My last name is Healey, Healey, at paprincipals.org. I'm collecting those questions and putting them into our format. So what I thought I would do this morning is to address the really hot button questions that we've received as members have sent them to me, as well as the other educational organizations. So I'm going to run through a few of those with you. So the first one that's probably getting the most play is this whole issue about 180 days and what's going to happen. So here is the guideline on the 180 days. I think there was confusion in the beginning because people were talking about a waiver. There will be no waiver with that, not particularly as per se a waiver. So here's the guideline. LEAs that fail to meet the 180 days or the hour requirement as a result of COVID-19 will not be penalized by the state. That's very, very important. So there will be no penalties associated with not making the 180-day or the hour requirement. PDE will be providing a simplified form for the LEAs to use to report any shortfall in days or hours at the end of the year. Now, having said all that, we're getting a lot of questions about what does that mean? Do we have to try to get the 180 days in, or do we just stick with our regular calendar? The guidance on that seems to indicate that PDE is strongly encouraging LEAs to adjust their calendars as appropriate. For example, using any snow days, Act 80 days, extending the school year to provide as much instruction as possible. And there will be some additional guidance on this topic in the near future as well. So that's the answer that we have right now. I think that will be a local decision on what school superintendents decide to do with your own calendars, whether they'll try to make up that time. And certainly, if this goes on a long time, it may be a moot point anyhow. We're only talking about during this 2-week period of time. And as most of you know, we can't extend beyond June 30th anyhow. So it depends on how long we're out now, how close we get to June 30th during your regular calendar. So again, check back with us on guidance on that, but that seems to have cleared up some of the mystery around 180 days. The next big topic that I've gotten a lot of questions about is what happens with the PSSAs, what's happening with the Keystone exams. So under PDE's guidance, I can tell you that the Department of Education has acknowledged that certain assessment requirements may not be practical now given the pandemic. So the Department of Education will be considering waivers. The state would have to apply for those waivers. PDE is monitoring those federal guidance as they come out, and certainly PDE will be asking for those waivers. So again, there's no hard, fast decision on that right now, but we know there's a lot of questions really concerning the assessments, PSSA, and Keystone. And I'll add to that, one of the questions that I asked yesterday that we're still waiting for word about is the PSSAs are one thing, but what about the Keystones? And I kind of use this example that if you have somebody in 7th or 8th grade, for example, that are taking algebra right now, and they can't finish the course, or you're providing some online stuff, but they can't take the Keystone, what happens to them? Since next year they bypass that course, they're in another grade, you know that their scores are banked on the Keystones until graduation. How does that affect the graduation requirements going forward when we don't have a score for that Keystone? So that's a question that I have put forth, and I don't have an answer for you on that one, but we're certainly thinking long-term on that issue. So the assessments have some short-term implications as well as some long-term implications as well. There have been some questions about completing the instructional evaluations to meet the teacher effectiveness requirements as well. And I will tell you at this point, there's been no specific guidance on that issue. However, it is reasonable to assume that this issue will be addressed in the future by PDE. And we'll probably have more about that in the days to come as they're really dealing with the high priority issues at this point. Another employee issue that has come up is the question, are building principals considered essential personnel? So the answer to that is that PDE is not going to come out and specifically say for each school district, since they're so vastly different, who's essential and who is not. However, that will be a local decision, but school administration has been pointed out as an example of essential employees. And we've been hearing across the state that school leaders have been required to come in to help with planning over these 2 weeks and into the future. So If your superintendent asks you to come in, you need to comply with that request, unless, of course, that you're sick or have been exposed, and then you should contact that school district directly. Facility issue. Here was one that we've gotten, especially from a lot of our elementary principals. Can schools keep their playgrounds, their basketball courts, etc., open for community use during the closure because they want to provide some opportunities for kids to get exercise? The answer to that question is no. As the Governor Wolf's latest order, playgrounds, basketball courts, and other recreational or community facilities should not be kept open. So please be aware that even though you might want to open those facilities to your own students or outside groups, it's not allowed at this point. Okay, so one of the huge issues right now is what happens during these 2 weeks and providing what's called a continuity of education. And related to that, what happens with special education and FAPE? Again, this is a really moving target. We're trying to get some federal guidelines on this right now, but here's the guidance out of PDE. If your district elects to provide continuity of education during the school closures, schools may offer opportunities in varying degrees of intensity, from either enrichment and review to full instructional days. And those full instructional days would count toward the 180-day requirement, although enrichment opportunities and review do not count toward the 180-day or the hour requirement at this point in time. Now, if you elect to offer continuity of education and instructional days, then FAPE would come into play, meaning that you must offer that to all of your students and keep FAPE in mind for that. That's going to be a little difficult to do in some cases, but please keep in mind that that will be a federal requirement at this point in time. That's if your district elects to do that. We've been told that many districts right now are waiting during this 2 weeks before they offer continuity of education for the full instructional days to find out what that issue will be and how long they will be out. Related to that is a question also around special education and with the closures, and how does that affect IEP meetings, reevaluations and evaluations and so on for those students that are affected. Again, if you have the opportunity to do some virtual means or conference calls during those periods of closure, you can try to do that. But again, certainly there are some things in the IEP that won't be able to be done until after as well. So those are the hot topic issues right now that we've been receiving. Again, there are many. We've been dealing with about 60 or 70 questions right now on the frequently asked question document that I sent out, and you can see all of those responses to that. If there's a question on there that has not been answered to your satisfaction, or there's a question that's not on there at all, I encourage you to send them my way so that I can lobby them up for our daily call with the other educational organizations and try to get something out from PDE as well. So in addition to that, one other thing that has happened from the educational organizations, and you can certainly see this on our website as well, is we penned a letter to the legislation just yesterday, urging them to pass some legislation to deal with some of the issues surrounding COVID-19. Some of those issues that we highlighted in that letter deal with the following. Certainly the 180 school year requirement. The issue regarding the increase of the number of flexible instructional days permissible under the closure and determined by the Secretary of Education. Requiring PDE to apply for the federal waiver from PSSA and Keystone exam testing. We don't believe that PD wouldn't do that, but we'd like to have that cemented in legislation as well. Another request is to authorize the secretary to waive the NOCTI and the NIMS exams for career and technical education students. Another one, which is an employee issue, is to ensure that all employees, particularly education support professionals, receive no more or no less compensation than they otherwise would have received. Also ensuring no employee receives more or less credit or contributes more or less than they otherwise would have been pursuant to the PESER system, the retirement system. And I know some things came out from PESERs yesterday. We think that those concerns that were expressed in the PESERs document yesterday would be solved by this legislation. Also a request to ensure that school entities provide protective gear for custodians who provide deep cleaning of potentially infected school buildings. And finally, a waiver of the 12-week student-teacher requirement. Now, there are other issues surfacing as well, but this would be the first set of issues that we've sent the legislators' way. We believe that there will be more as the questions and things come our way. So again, I urge you to please send your questions our way, to continue to look at our website every single day where we are providing some updates. And so on a positive note, I really want to switch to, so what we've gotten this question from some of our principals, and so we decided that this would be a good way to share out what some principals are doing to stay connected to their students, to their staff, as well as their communities. So I'm going to share a few of those today, and again, keep those coming as people go live with continuity of education as well, and some of the platforms they're using. So let me share a few of those with you today. And if you cannot see these on the screen, hopefully you will be able to, but if not, we will send out this PowerPoint document because there are some links in there as well. So if you could go back one, Steph, for me, if you can. There you go. So one of the first ones, I thought this was kind of interesting, was submitted by Ann Wolf from Upper Adams School District. She's using SMORE. I know many of you are using that platform. She has a great newsletter. We're actually going to open this one up, hopefully, just to show you everything that's kind of on this newsletter. And so you can see that she has something particular for her elementary school. What's nice about this one's, they've included non-online activities as well as online activities. I think that's really important. We assume that everybody's connected or has devices today, and we know that that's not true in some areas. And quite frankly, with everybody getting on the internet, you know, I'm wondering, you know, how much of a pipeline we're going to have to the internet in the future when everybody tries to get on. She has everything from snacks, virtual field trips, to information about COVID-19. So I thought this was a great way, with even some videos there in the descriptions, that parents and students can connect and keep her connected as well. So that's just one example. You might want to take a look at that one more in depth. So let me share a few other ones. So this is from Lori from Wyland Elementary School. They've created some theme days, especially for this week. She's created a special theme each day this week, and encouraging parents not only to do those theme days, but to actually take pictures of the children and send them back. And then she's sending those out as well. Very similar, Mary Kay from Manheim Elementary School created some spirit days. And some examples of those, if you're looking for those, is Exercise Day. We certainly just passed St. Patrick's Day. Show Your U.S. Spirit Day, the first day of spring, and Manheim Spirit Day. And again, getting pictures or videos of kids and actually the whole family involved in some of these spirit days, and sending those back keeps everybody connected. This is a very popular one. I actually saw Jim Archosky doing this the other day on his Facebook page, so there's a shout out to Jim. And again, from Lori, many principals are doing story hours and trying to set some particular times during the day about that. There's one little caveat with this. You might want to check with the authors of those stories to get permission that you're sharing those stories, you know, over the waves. I know that some of the principals that have reached out to the authors of those books have certainly granted permission to share those with their communities. Another twist on this was actually differentiating the story hours because of the grade level spans in the buildings. Some principals are doing a story hour at a particular time for the primary children, and then a different story hour later in the day for their older students. So you might want to keep that in mind as well. So here's one from junior, senior high school, as well as that's Mike and Joe from Walden Elementary School. And I thought this was a really good thought that Mike sent me this email trying to maintain a sense of normalcy throughout this whole crisis for students, because many students look to school for that normalcy each and every day. And Mike says even though they're not a one-to-one school, they're using things like Google Classroom and some other platform tools to communicate. Curtis Johnson from State College High School offered a couple things that they're using. CJ and his staff are using, again, Google Docs, which many of you are using, your YouTube channels, and Zoom, like we are today, to keep in touch with each other and the community as a whole. Central Cambria High School, Chris, thanks for sending some things our way as well. He's communicating with parents by way of Skylert. So if you want to learn about Skylert, shoot Chris a text or an email on that. And I know many of you are doing this as well, expanding your backpack programs and providing food for your students, both breakfast and lunch. I've seen videos of that, and a lot of announcements, and a lot of teachers and administrators volunteering to help distribute food. Compiling a list of resources for students, resources for parents to talk to students about COVID-19. I think that's really important as well. The kids are going to have a lot of questions. As you know, the first results that we're getting, especially out of China and Italy, was that really wasn't affecting the younger population, but now we're getting increased statistics that actually say otherwise. So ignoring that population is not something that we should be doing right now, and we should be keeping them safe as well. Setting students up with free workouts to keep them physically active. I've seen a lot of videos on this where, you know, let's do some yoga with the principal or some exercises as a workout for the next 20 minutes with the principal. All great stuff. Another one from middle school. This is from George. They're not providing district instruction during these 2 weeks, which again, we've heard that from a lot of districts right now. It's kind of a wait and see attitude, but in the interim, the staff is providing a list of activities for students, again, that are both hands-on and online. I think that's really important. You know, we always turn to online all the time first, but we need to recognize that we need to providing some things for those students and parents that may not have access to that. They're also using Google Docs and submitting links for specific activities in reading and in science, problem solving. Again, here's exercises and even some games. All of these things at the present time are non-graded, and they're also providing breakfast and lunch for students. Poff Elementary School, Colleen, thank you for your submission as well. She's actually doing a daily morning video on her school Twitter feed, so you might want to check that out. Her slant on those videos is really to stay positive and upbeat with the staff and answering any questions that they have. Sharing personal things such as, you know, a walk with her dog or taking them on a nature walk has been very popular with their students as well. And again, she had a weekly newsletter that was going on anyhow, but she's maintaining that. She thought that was really important to continue to communicate with parents on an ongoing basis. Brandywine Heights, Bob Farina. Thanks again, Bob, for your submissions as well. I don't know some of these platforms. Many of you probably do, since I'm not in the school right now. Certainly know Google Classrooms, but some of the other ones that he's listed there, if you don't know what those are about, I would say Bob would certainly welcome an email from you, and he can point you in the right direction for some of those platforms. Again, they're doing non-graded activities. This was really unique too. They're using Facebook as a district to actually host a question or a challenge out there and getting responses to that. And they also have on their district website a special section dedicated to COVID-19. And again, if you do that, please upload our frequently asked questions to that, because parents would like to see those as well. You're certainly able to do that. Another middle school submission from Andrew Mellon Middle School from Chris. This was also unique, and I know a number of superintendents are doing this as well. The superintendent is doing a live stream every morning with an update about COVID-19, as well as doing some mindful meditation exercises. And they say this has been a big hit with the community. We have a link for that so that you can go take a look at that. In the future, I'm not going to open it up today at this point. Do we have? So we're going to go to the chat room to see if there's any particular questions that you might have at this point. I will tell you that our intent is to continue to do updates. And as schools are closed, my attempt, as long as I can still get into the office and have access to the webinar equipment, is to do these Thursday meetings at 11:30. So if we can get into the office to do that, we would send you out a new link for those Thursday happenings as well. So Steph, are there anything in the chat room right now?
There is one question. Where is this link, the resources?
Okay, we didn't send that out yet. We will be sending that after the webinar today. We need to upload that to this PowerPoint to the website. So you just open the PowerPoint and the links will be in there. Any other questions? So we know this is tough times for all of you at this point in time. So if you have a question, again, continue to send them our way. We'll try to get those answered. I'll try to answer them for you. If I don't know the answer, we'll certainly be chatting with the other ed organizations about what we're doing on those questions and adding them to our frequently asked questions. So again, your best resource right now will be the PA Principals website at www.paprincipals.org. So I'm waiting to see if there's any last minute things coming in. And hopefully we'll get the camera set so that you at least can see me, but it's probably better that you don't anyhow. So I hope for you, your schools, and your community that you stay safe and healthy. And if there's anything that I can do for you or the organization can do for you, I hope you won't hesitate to ask. I will tell you that right now, I'm able to come in the office during the day. Our staff is not here. So if you have membership questions, things like that, we're not able to process membership things right now. Don't worry if you're getting ready to expire on your membership. We'll catch up with you when this is all over. So I don't want you to worry about those types of issues. Go ahead, Steph.
Sounds like a specific group. Has anyone gone one-on-one because they have the resources? We have the Chromebooks that aren't 100% sure the process is the first one.
Yeah, so the question was, has anybody that is gone one-to-one, they have the Chromebooks going out right now. So you might want to respond to everybody in the chat room if you are. I know there are many districts that are one-to-one. Some of them are on hold right now to wait to find the guidance about FAPE and special education, and that's certainly understandable. I will tell you that depending on how long this is out, you will need to think about your IEP students, your special education students. Those IEPs will have to be opened up when kids return. Certainly, there may be some compensatory education, meaning a more extended school year this year for some of those students, and anything else to be able to satisfy the goals in the IEP for the current school year. But that's something to be determined later on down the road once we find out how long this is going to last.
Is there any proposal to waive district requirements so that districts can attempt to provide new instruction?
So the question is there any proposal to waive district's FAPE requirements? So FAPE, as you know, is federal. So until we get some federal guidelines on that, I don't, as I'm sitting here today, the information that I have is that there won't be a waiver on that, so that if you're providing a continuity of instruction or education to students, that has to go across the board to those students that are covered by the IEPs in some form. Now, what that form is, I don't know, and what that guidance will be in the future, we're still waiting for that.
Will there be a link to this discussion on the website?
Yes, we are recording actually this webinar. So we will be providing the webinar link for you in the recording if our technology works. So, so we're a 2-member team here today. So between the two of us, hopefully we'll be able to get this link up on our website later today.
Will there be anything put into place for the guidance counselors to deal with stress, uncertainty of students upon return?
So the question was, is there anything putting into place for guidance counselors to deal with the stress with students and everything else? That's also a question that we've been wrestling with. That's one further down the road at this point. There's been no guidance about that as of yet from PDE. Okay. So I want to be respectful of your time and our time as well. And again, we're going to try to do this every Thursday at 11:30. So look for that link to come out. And again, thank you so much. And please don't hesitate to contact us here at, my private or my business email, which is Healey@paprinciples.org. And we'll try to help you in any way that we can. And again, I can't stress enough, please continue to visit our website often, almost daily, because we're getting new updates almost daily that we will put up there. Again, have a safe and healthy day and week. Thank you so much for joining us.